Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Paystack Workshop. Today, we'll be talking about webhooks. And before we get started, I just wanted to let you guys get familiar with the platform and just help set the tone of the conversation. So, on the bottom right, you'll have a chat box where you can post your messages and just check in. Um, you can ask, like, you can just introduce yourselves and say where you're dialing in from. And then we have the questions tab, and there you can post questions that you'd like us to answer, questions that you're not clear about, anything you want us to clarify for you. Will be post. You use the questions tab for that. So as we are waiting in, I'll give it one more minute or so before we start. I see hi Kelvin, hey Sharif from Nigeria, welcome, welcome. We'll just give it like 1 or 2 minutes for others to join in and just say hello. Moses, greetings from Ghana. Dominic from Ghana. Cool, cool. Amazing. I see we are almost a full Pan African representation. I'm dialing in from Nairobi, actually. Believe it or not, it's afternoon here. Um, yeah, so cool. Let's get started. So my name is Andrew. I'm with the developer relations team at Paystack. On the call today, we have Subomi and Ibukun. Subomi is from Convoy and we'll be talking about webhooks today. Ibukun will be in the chats helping answer your questions and anything you want to raise. Ibukun will be there for us. Will be there to help. So let me start by sharing the presentation for today and the agenda. So on today's workshop, we're going to be talking about webhooks. In particular, we'll be chatting about what webhooks are, so defining webhooks, how to set them up on Paystack, making sure that you're following the processes for setting up your webhooks on Paystack, and then from there we'll hand over to Shubomi to teach us about Convoy. So Convoy is a an open source webhook proxy that helps you manage webhooks, both consuming them and publishing webhooks to if you want to build a service that pushes webhooks. And then after that, we'll have a Q&A session with all of us where we discuss and expound on things that are not clear to you guys. So let's get started. So what's a webhook? A lot of times we come across these words and we're not sure. And I remember even the first time I heard about webhooks, it took me a while to understand it. But these two resources helped me understand it even easier. So from Zapier's blog, they say webhooks are a way for apps to send automated information to other apps. So automated means one app doesn't have to request the information from the other app, and this other app it's just sending and receiving real quickly. Charge B, another very good blog there. The difference, they put it in terms of HTTP. So one is request-based mechanism and the other is event-based. So if you think about it, webhooks are event-based output mechanisms. So do this when this happens. So tell me when a transaction has happened in the case of Paystack, or instead of you having to ask Paystack, has this transaction happened? And there's no better way to show request-based and event-based notifications than using our image over here from our documentation. So ideally, normally, people would send a request to Paystack saying, "Has this transaction happened?" And Paystack tells you we're still processing. You send again after a few minutes, and we say we're still processing. Then you send that again asking, how has this transaction gone? And we tell you, yeah, finally, here's the data, right? That's what request-based mechanisms are. But then with event-based mechanisms, nobody is asking anybody for anything, except Paystack will tell your systems that, hey, we've received this transaction has come in, there you go. And you tell us, thank you. So it's just that simple. Webhooks cut down the processing and the background work of having to poll, having to keep requesting for information, having to even maintain statuses of where things are. And instead, your server continues processing whatever it is it's doing, while we come and tell you, hey, we've collected this money from this customer, and you can go ahead and provide value to them. One of my favorite use cases is with GitHub and Slack. So work happens on GitHub. A lot of work happens on GitHub, but communication happens on Slack. This is mostly true for Paystack. So because of the benefit of webhooks fired by GitHub, we're able to receive notifications on Slack when somebody has opened a pull request, when somebody has pushed new code. And this saves us from having to ask the developers or asking somebody, hey, did you finish this? Did you finish that? You can just receive it in Slack and either approve, reject, or comment and everything. And all this happens through webhooks, right? In the case of Paystack, if you're using Paystack webhooks, and let's say you're not happy with the transaction emails, or you'd like to send your own personal touch to your customers, you can connect Paystack webhooks to MailChimp. So you're able to send a transaction notification. Once you receive our webhooks, you trigger an email via MailChimp, and you've sent a custom email to your paid customer. You can also use Paystack webhooks to send a custom SMS via Twilio. So this is the essence of like webhooks. It's making things automated. You don't need to wait for Paystack. You don't need to keep requesting Paystack to send you information, but rather you just receive it from us and do whatever you want. Create your own custom email, create your own, send an SMS thanking the customer for buying and patronizing your business. So how do webhooks on Paystack work? So the first things first, you have to understand that you have to set the webhook URL, which is here on the right, and they are on your dashboard. And there's some requirements before you do for you to do that. It has to be publicly accessible and HTTP secured. So HTTP URLs will not be accepted. And then publicly accessible, we mean that you don't need to go through a VPN or some different way to connect to that endpoint. In fact, if you want to confirm that your endpoint is publicly accessible, one of the tools I use is Postman. So you just put your URL on Postman and send a dummy request to it. Either you should get a 200 or a 500 in case there's an error. But if it's not able to connect, then Paystack itself will also not be able to connect to your URL. The third thing is that it should be able to process and accept post requests and process JSON data. This is because the Paystack sends webhooks in JSON format, and it's hard to find people who send without JSON. But there are some systems out there, I won't say. But so for Paystack, you always make sure your webhook URL accepts post requests and can process JSON data. Then the fourth thing and the most crucial thing is to validate the event is from Paystack. Subomi will cover how validation works further down in code, but it's just to make sure that you are not giving value to somebody who isn't supposed to receive that value. So you want to make sure that the events are coming from Paystack, because at the end of the day, this is money, and some people out there are not very friendly. So someone might take your webhook URL and just fire random transactions, to give them, to make it seem like they've bought so much from you, and they start claiming you owe the money. So that's the other thing. And finally, best practice is to always return 200 okay first, because we have retry mechanisms. So to prevent you double crediting or double debiting your customers, you should always respond with 200 okay first. That tells us, thank you, we received the event, now it's up to us to process it, and we will stop. But if we don't get 200, then we'll keep retrying, and the retrial can cause issues if you don't respond immediately. Um, so I will pause here, and I'll invite Subomi, CEO, co-founder of Convoy, onto the stage to take it up and show us this amazing tool and how to implement it.
All right. Hi, everybody. I will share my screen in a bit. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm Shubomi, and I will be. Thank you, Andrew, for that quick run through. Um, I think you touched on several important points. So what I will be doing is going further to not just describe the theory of webhooks and how you integrate with like Paystack or how you publish webhooks. I would show you how Convoy sort of simplifies your life as a developer, building with webhooks, receiving Paystack webhooks, receiving webhooks in general, and sort of showing practically best practices from what Andrea shared. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Um, so what is like Convoy? Convoy is an open source webhooks proxy. What that means is Convoy acts as an intermediary. You can think of a proxy as something that stays in between person A or person B. You can think of it as a proxy that stays between server A and server B. I don't know if that makes sense. And so what Convoy enables you to do as a Paystack customer is to enable you receive Paystack webhooks reliably. In the same vein, it's the same infrastructure. So what Convoy enables you to also do if you are an API provider like Paystack to be a proxy between you as the provider and your customers, which are like your own Paystack customers, if that makes sense. And so it's just sort of, and you will see diagrams in the next slide that sort of bring this abstract drawings to life, right? Convoy is a proxy. It's trying to solve the delivery, the management of webhooks from end to end, right? Like when you think about how you use webhooks, how you manage webhooks. And it's very interesting to me because when Paystack launched like 2016, like so many years ago, very early days of Paystack. And when I read through the documentation, that was the first time I came across webhooks. And I literally wrote a blog post on Medium. That blog post is so old, it's like 2016. I wrote that blog post on, and like I described the concept of webhooks there. And 2022 is still kind of interesting that people are trying to understand what webhooks is. How is it different from server sent event? How is it different from WebSocket? I'm like, no. It's just asynchronous callback. So I'll try to bring those theories to life and show you how Convoy sort of eliminates the burden of you building the tools to rather than focusing on your primary job, which can be anything. You might be building a fintech application, you might be building SMS API, you might be building a crypto bot, you might be building a Twitter bot, several use cases. It's literally how we program the web, right? How you take information from Twitter, you transform it, send it to Slack, send it as a Slack DM, You take something from Twitter, you send an SMS, you do USSD, you get information back, you do something again programmatically, and then you take another action, right? Set up a Shopify store, somebody buys something from a Shopify store, you get the information, you process it, you push it to Airtable, all happening with APIs and webhooks. And I'm going to show how Convoy sort of eliminates the burden, sort of build the tools that you would have had to build yourself either way. And I hope that sort of spark some ideas in your head while we talk about webhooks. Okay, let's go. So again, Convoy is a proxy. Now, if you look at this diagram very carefully, you see Paystack on the left and the backend application on the right. What's happening here is you've triggered an event, you've triggered an action on Paystack. You said, I've charged the card. Paystack is, you can look at the arrow. The arrow is coming from Paystack to Convoy and from Convoy to the backend application. And Paystack is telling your backend application that we've successfully charged this card. You can go ahead to deliver value. I think it's somewhere around Paystack documentation where they mention, until you get an information from us of this nature, please do not give value. It means that if you charge a card, the only time you deliver the value on your mobile application, be it e-commerce or savings or any form of fintech, you need to wait to receive events from Paystack first. Else, if you deliver value and the charge was not complete, you would find yourself in a problem where you need to record the money because the charge was not complete, or the value you gave, you need to record the value. And so this is Paystack pushing an event to Convoy and pushing it to your backend application. In the other reality, you would need to develop something yourself. Say, develop your own Convoy to receive the event from Paystack and send it to your backend application. So let's do a quick demo. No. All right. So here I have my Convoy dashboard set up for this demo. Quickly, you can go to getconvoy.io to create an account to follow through this process. I'm going to quit this and come back here. Okay, let's go into this place. So what we want to do is we want to model this image. We want to take an event from Paystack and send it to our backend application. Now, for the purpose of this demo, our backend application will be this webhooks.site URL. Don't worry, we're going to see another something cooler than webhooks.site soon. But let's start with webhooks.site. So webhooks.site models our backend application. We want events, card created, something card charge successful, invoice created, something that Paystack can notify my backend about. And so what I've done is the first thing you do is you create a source. If you look at it, what a source is a unique URL. So I have my Paystack dashboard set up as well. You come to your settings page. This is where you configure webhooks on Paystack. And so what I've done is to create a Paystack source. When you create a Paystack source, what you are doing in effect is you get a unique URL. I just copy this URL from here, you bring it here, and you paste it here. Now, if you look at this, the last part parameters here tell you you won't have another URL of this same part parameter. That shows the uniqueness. I'm going to save this guy, and I'm going to come back here and say, okay, now that I have this guy saved, I want to describe my backend application because, again, looking at the image, Convoy needs to know where am I sending these events to when it comes in from Paystack. And so this is how we just set that up. You have a backend application that has your webhooks.site URL. See? Oh, no. Yeah, this is it. And then now we need to do the final step. And I left this on purpose so that I can do it on the call. Now we want to say backend subscribes to Paystack, right? For Paystack, my backend application, and my backend application default URL false. Now, what this means is that subscriptions are like the conduits, right? Like I've said, this backend application is ready to receive everything that Paystack has to give it. And so we would go ahead to trigger an event. Let's do invoice. Let's create an invoice. Let's do. All right. 1,000. Oh, now we expect Paystack to generate an invoice for us. Ah, yes, it came through. We can see success. If you click into the delivery, you can see now you can see the payload. You can see the request headers that was sent, Paystack X signature. Now, for most of us that have developed against like webhooks, you know that knowing this value can save you a ton because you need to know that the computation you are performing on your hand match the computation that Paystack is doing. And when you are developing a new application, either Paystack or whatever the provider is, knowing this information is very, very valuable. In fact, knowing everything on this page is very valuable. Knowing what was sent, the structure of what was sent, knowing how your server responded, was a proxy in the middle or a cache server in the middle messing up with the flow that your server responded poorly, or how did my server respond really? All of this information helps you debug. And now we see 200. So we come to webhooks site and voila, our events went through. Awesome. So that's stage one. What we want to now do is how can we take this same event and send it to two places? Now I'm sure most of us have built like microservices or applications that have just one more than one server. So you have a monolith, but you have other services, or you have um, not just microservices, but just um, functions everywhere. You're not even dealing with like um, microservices in like the way that I don't know people do microservices. You're doing more like cloud functions, Azure Lambda functions, and you have HTTP triggers. And we want to take one event and send them to two places, right? Again, in the alternate reality, what you have to do is to build a reliable webhooks system is you have to build a proxy in front. You have to say Paystack, send me this event, this my proxy, and now this my proxy will determine where he sends it to. And that's like what Convoy is sort of bundling. So what I will do is I will come back to our dashboard here and say, we want to send this same event to a different place. Now bring out serverless function. So we have the serverless function on Google Cloud. And while webhooks or sites mirrors our primary monolith application, right? We have another function that is meant to do some form of processing on this event. And so what we will do is we would create. Now let's create a serverless function. Go ahead and give it an endpoint default URL. Copy this guy. Move on. Books. Stock. Voila. Now I'm intentionally like leaving out some details to just sort of focus on like some concepts I'm trying to really show, which is and there are other things that are happening behind the scenes. Like when I was creating an application, there was a place where I can create timeouts, which means when your server is under load, you need to be able to describe to Convoy that even if there are 10,000 events, do not send the 10,000 events to me at once. You need to throttle the events to my server at the rate that my server can receive. And like if you deploy with cloud functions, you know that there are just some limits to what your providers give you and how much request and how much concurrency is available to your cloud functions or whatever you're deploying with. So there's more to the scenes, but I'm focusing on the concept I'm trying to show, which is we want to take one event and we want to send it to two places. So what we then do in this scenario is we create another subscription. So we say serverless subscribes to Paystack. Again, we select Paystack, we select serverless, and we select the default URL. Now, again, most of everything I'm showing on this dashboard can all be done programmatically from the Convoy API, but that is out of context. So let's continue. So now we fully described the base. to Convoy that when an event comes from Paystack, send it to two places. So let's do a demo. We come back here, request for another payment. Yeah. Oh, 1 second. Just keep going up like that, bit by bit. Right. So we come back to our dashboard. Now, if you if you notice on this, if you look at this first event that came through, we see success. Right. There's just one delivery. But when you click on this new one, you can see two deliveries. Right. One was successful, one failed. So let's dig in. Let's see what went wrong. So we click on deliveries. We can see the two deliveries. We can see marks at them. So again, several things are happening behind the scenes. Convoy tries to retry the event to your endpoint to ensure that you get the event. That's like the thesis of a reliable webhook infrastructure. It tries its best to deliver the event to your endpoint. Again, this guy was successful. This guy was to our webhook site, but this guy failed. And if you can see, he tried 3 times, but he continued failing. 400 bad requests. Why is this guy failing? Well, this is on purpose, and we'll come back to this later. But yeah, it shows the concept. It shows the idea that we took one event that came from Paystack and we sent it to two places. And so when you are consuming from Paystack, Paystack would always notify you that something has happened in your account. The way you deploy your backend applications to process this event is left to you. But Convoy or any reliable webhook infrastructure should enable you to find these events out to multiple places. Let's proceed. Okay, so then how do we then, if this makes sense? So I can receive from Paystack, but most likely the applications we are building today do not rely on one provider. When you are doing XMS, delivery notifications, you are integrating like Twilio, Termite, InfoBeep, whatever you're integrating with, all send you webhooks, right? So that's SMS. If you're integrating with like connecting bank accounts, you need to do something like Mono, right? Or like Plaid if you are not in Nigeria, or like Stitch if you are in somewhere else in Africa. And so, like, most definitely, the applications we build rely on multiple providers already. And so, one of the good things about like a reliable webhook infrastructure, not just Convoy, is you need to be able to put it at the edge of your network and receive all these events and have a reliable source of truth, right? In the event of debugging, you can go to your source of truth. You can sort of figure out what went wrong, when, how, and fix your systems. So what we want to do in this scenario is we want to describe another ingestion source. Oh my God, to Convoy that describes the idea that Convoy or this webhook infrastructure can receive from multiple places, and with subscriptions you can describe how these things are distributed. Right? This concept is sort of like decoupled. Receiving is decoupled from distribution, and it's up to you and how you describe your systems. So let's come back here. We come to sources, and I already created it. I have GitHub. If you look at it, we've described how GitHub does signature verification. We've described the signing secret. We've described the provider and all the settings required for GitHub. If you want to do this on your own, it's very simple. You create a source. You come here, GitHub to, just run HTTP, select GitHub, and you put your signing secret. Now, you notice that when I did the Paystack scenario, I didn't talk anything about signing secret. That's because we did the non-verification. So in that sense, Convoy receives Paystack events, receives it with the headers, and forwards it down to you. You don't have to sign. But in this scenario, I'm signing. Okay, so I'm going to copy this URL, come to GitHub. I don't think we shared this. I think this must have been shared in the chat, but this repository contains everything that is being demoed. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to use copy, edit. Um, so here we're saying, oh, 1 second, let me be sure. Okay, signing secrets, same thing. SSL verification, push me everything, updates. Now, now that I have this set up, I'm going to come to my dashboard, and now I need to describe again subscription. So for this demo, I want my webhooks site, which is my backend application, to receive events from GitHub. So let's do that. Um, Backend subscribes to GitHub. With GitHub, select backend, select a default URL false, and you create a subscription. Again, now all this can be done over the API programmatically, depending on your use case. Okay, to ensure that people are following me, I need somebody to start this repository and watch how the events flows. Anybody can start the repository, fork the repository, just create an action to we have a star already. So we have to reload. So many events. Who forked the repository? Interesting. So many events. Okay. Now we can see the events flowing in from GitHub and all flowing out to webhooks or sites. You can see the events flowing from, and if I go ahead to generate another invoice, it doesn't stop it. It will keep just, Convoy knows where to send what to and how. One, two, lol. Are people still playing with the repository? Okay, now you can see it's in scheduled state. No. Yes. And yeah, like normal, you can come here, you can see the entire payload. Events from GitHub are always really large. So, all right. And we're back here. We've been able to describe Paystack and GitHub and describe subscriptions based on how you want the events to be routed to any destination of your choice. Now, what happens when your endpoints are down? And like, it's very interesting because with webhooks, they exist along critical paths many a times, which means if webhooks fail to deliver certain times and you don't have good monitoring systems to ensure that you are alert, and you can fix bugs on time, most definitely your customers or your users will be the one nudging you that something is down. It happens all the time. Like, I make a payment, somebody cannot receive webhooks. I've been debited 5,000 naira, $10, depending on where you are. But it's not reflecting on the mobile application I'm using. It's not reflecting on the platform I'm using to carry out the action. And so it's important that a good webhooks infrastructure that you build or Convoy should be able to notify me when my webhooks are down. So let's look at that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure this webhooks site, which acts as our backend application, to return 500. Now, this might mean that in your company, you're moving fast, you're shipping code, and coincidentally, somebody broke the webhook verification process. And so it starts returning 500, and you deploy on Friday, and everybody has gone home. And we need webhooks to go to the webhooks site or to the backend application. Now, if I come back to GitHub and carry out an action, it will fail to deliver to this guy because this guy will continue responding with a 500. We need a way to notify ourselves. So the way that works on Convoy is you come to your backend application and you say, support email. You create your support email. For now, I'm using the webhooks aside support email. You can see it's email at webhooks aside, and the email will show up here. That's when Convoy tries to send events to an endpoint and sees consecutive failures, it disables the endpoint and sends out an email. And so what I would do is I would start this repository and expect an event to come through. Now this event is scheduled. If I click on the deliveries, now you can see it's in the retry state. Max attempt is going to retry 3 times. There's somewhere you can configure this retry attempts, but I'm not digress that direction. Okay, now it did it 3 times and it has failed, right? Let's look at it. It was returning 500. We programmed it to return 500, obviously. So when we come here, we see all the retries. We see 500, 500, 500. Where does it show 500? I mean, you see 500 here. And then we expect an email. So this failed consecutively. So if you come to the project settings, I had disabling endpoints before. So it failed consecutively, but it never disabled the endpoint. So I'm going to set it to true and I'm going to try again. All right, then I am going to unstart the project. Reload. Okay, now we're in the retry state. We're back here. Second retry. Third retry, failure. You see 1, 2, 3. Now we expect an email. Let me confirm it's the same email. Where's our email? I would have to try that again and explain why that didn't work. Start the repository. Okay. Consecutive failures. Our email came through. All right. So what essentially was happening is, you can sort of configure email notification based on project-wide settings. So do you want to receive emails for all your endpoints that fail, or do you want to receive emails for just specific endpoints that you are particular about? And this happens because some endpoints are on the critical part, like they're on the payment route. You need to know when something goes down. And so in the project settings, you have disabling endpoint true or false. But when you come to the subscriptions, which is GitHub, for example, and you look at it, you can actually decide I know I said I want for everybody, but for GitHub, I want false. And that was why it wasn't coming out in the beginning. So what we do in this scenario now that we have an email is we configure this guy to be 200. We come back to our events page on the event deliveries. We try our events and it goes from scheduled to processing and success. Okay, processing. And reload this guy to success. And then you get another email that your webhook, please note your endpoint has been enabled. Please note your endpoint has been disabled. Please note your endpoint has been enabled. Awesome. So now, how do we debug webhook events with Convoy dashboard? Like, what more can we do? We've seen like the dashboard where we see the states of the events. We've seen the request, the response, the HTTP headers, and all this information that's happening behind the scenes. What more is possible when I'm trying to like debug? And again, for the most part, it's building with webhooks is building the tools that you need to get out of problems on time. That's the most that we do when like you're building a webhook system. Delivery and okay, now there's a problem. How do I fix this problem ASAP? And I want to show it with the dashboard how you solve that problem, and also when you are integrating a new API. So let's proceed. For that, I have another project called debugging webhooks. In this scenario, what I want to demo is I want to demo receiving events with Paystack, but enhanced debugging. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I'm developing against Paystack, and I want to sort of use an ngrok-like tool to figure out development on my local machine and then push and then debug. So I'll start with developing a new application. So I just found out about Paystack, such a great experience. I want to deploy my application. I want to build against Paystack. I've integrated their APIs. I want to receive webhook events. I can't even wait to get started. I'm so excited. Let's do it. First, we copy our new Paystack URL because it's a new project. Come to the settings. Save the changes. A new project, new source URL. We create our application now, serverless application with these endpoints. Now we'll do two things. The first is we would look at the code behind this function, and then we would try to test. Now, the code on the left is just a simple cloud function that receives events from Paystack. It tries to verify the event on line 49, and line 59 is line 57 is you try to send back 200, and line 59 is you do several other things that you want to do. Now we've built this application. It works on our local machine. When you do go run, serverless function, go run, serving function, it works. But I want to test now. Like, how do I know that? I've written a verification logic. So this is my verification logic. Verify, HMAC verifier, X Paystack signature. I've written this code, but how do I test? So that was why we built Convoy CLI. So I have this on my machine already. I don't think I need to do this. But if you're on Mac, you can do brew install. You have Convoy. If you do Convoy, you see all the commands available. You can log in. You can listen. So exactly what I want to demo. So what I would do is first is I will run my function. My function is running on ports 8080, I think. Let's confirm. It's port 8080. Okay. the first thing to debug is I'll generate a key, call it local machine. My key. Right. Now there are no devices yet, and I'll go ahead to login. So do Convoy login, supply my API key, and then supply the host, which is like get convoy.io. I'm logged in. Project debugging webhooks application serverless function. Now the next thing is I'm going to do Convoy listen. I'm going to figure out who do I want to listen for. Paystack. All right. I hope I can't see the live storm, but I hope like this is not too much information at once. Now remember, this is the same thing we are deploying to the cloud function, but we are trying to like test first. We want to sort of figure out that our integration works. And I've seen this a lot of times. What people do today is you generate an ngrok URL, you put it up to Paystack, you run ngrok, you go, you test, and then you go off. But with this, you don't need to copy ngrok, just log in, listen, and all right. So now what is happening is every event that comes in from Paystack will be routed to my CLI and be routed to this guy. So again, I am going to go to Paystack dashboard. I'm going to generate an invoice. I am going to say Subomi for the weird amounts. Voila, this came through and this came through. Now this guy says could not verify request, algorithm not found. How do we debug that? Now the alternate scenario is, except you start pushing to the cloud, you push your function, you go and look at the logs, what's going on there. Oh, this is what I missed. You go and write on that thing, push it again, go and look at the logs. All you do is you do all of this on your local machine. So now this is saying algorithm not found. How do we solve that? In the code, we have an hash. And how do we specify our hash? By convoy hash. So we have to check, is anything called convoy hash? I don't think so. We export our convoy hash, we specify SHA-256. Okay, we run our server again, generate another event. For lol. Oh, now the problem has changed. Bad request, could not verify, invalid signature, hash does not match. Now we are printing out what is being sent. This is it, HMark signature. I mean, this is also available on like the delivery page I showed us before. Now, how do I sort of solve this invalid signature? So when you come and you check Paystack webhooks, I think I'm running out of time. Like, how does Paystack verify event? SHA-512, obviously. So that's where the mistake is. So you come back, you specify this 512, run server again, and you, I don't know, generate another event. And we check this. No error. We validated correctly. Now you can push code with confidence, knowing that you've done the job and you don't need to change anything. You figured out how to hash. You figured out how to compose your all of this, and then you push to your cloud, and then you are fine. Also, it's worth noting that when you shut this down, a big difference between this tool and ngrok is when you shut this down and you come back later, you can do convoy listen. If I so let me just do help. So if you look at this flag is saying since. What this means is that with ngrok, all the information that was sent to your CLI when you were not online are gone. Like they are gone. You can't debug. You have to stand up a new ngrok URL, copy the new ngrok URL, go to the server, paste it there, and trigger a new one. But with Convoy CLI, it's stateful. What that means is that the events are on the cloud, the events are on your Convoy instance, and you can come and say Convoy listen iPhone since 1 hour ago, and it will replay all the events 1 hour ago. Yes. Final thing is I am going to use this last script to sort of create like 10 or 20 or 50 invoices programmatically. Instead of doing like this manual, I want to create like 10. And I'm going to specify customers' name like Subomi, Emmanuel, Raymond, Andrew. And the goal here is that when you push your application, it's not going to be 3 events. You're going to be having like 50, 100, like you'll be having thousands per day. So how do you really go through that information and find out what you're looking for and debug customers event ASAP? So you do, if you look at it here, this is saying invoice count. So we need to specify invoice count. I'll specify it to 30, and we are going to generate our invoices. So what this will do is randomly pick which of the customers. It's randomly pick Subomi, Emmanuel, Raymond, Andrew, just randomly pick and generate invoices for all of us. And I'll do that now. Okay. All right. Invoices are being generated. I should have put something more descriptive. Anyways. Something more, something that gives us outputs that we know that something's happening behind the scenes. But invoices are being generated. If I come here, I'm saying a sea of invoices being generated. Now, if I open anyone, I'll see can you see the notes? Emmanuel's invoice. If I open this, I'll see Andrew's invoice. Now, okay, it's done. When you come to the dashboard and I reload, yeah, now there are events, now there are plenty, right? Again, this is really minute to what you see in production, because on a daily basis, you'll be going to thousands and tens of thousands of events. With this search bar, what it allows us to do is search with like customer name. So I can do Andrew, for example. And I'm only going to say all the events that are for Andrew, right? I'm not going to be saying Subomi. I can say Andrew's invoice. I'm not going to be saying Raymond. I'm not going to be saying Emmanuel. And if I come here and I do Emmanuel, I'm only going to be saying Emmanuel's invoice. And then when you pair this with your daytime filters, you sort of can really, really narrow down the problem. When somebody says, you didn't send me web event for 1 hour, early morning or Sunday. Oh, what's the customer name? You said customer name, date and time. And then you can really narrow down, sort of look into the event and see what went wrong and sort of like fix it ASAP. And if you look closely, you see that all these events are being discarded. What this means is that the Convoy can tell that your CLI is currently not running, and so it will discard all the events. Now, something nifty I can do is I can come here and say, Convoy, come on. Yeah, Convoy listen. Okay, let me run this guy back. And I ask it since the last 4 minutes. What this will do is it will look at all my discarded events, all the events that I my, with because the CLI is not live, so it discards all the event. Think of the discarded as like dev null, it just throws them away. In this scenario, it would replay all these events back to me. So when I do this, you can see I just get a sea of events and I'm validating all of them on my local machine. And then voila. Stop this and I'm going to stop this. Yeah, that's debugging webhook events with Convoy dashboard and the CLI. Final thoughts is when verifying webhook events, like this is a snippet of the code I showed earlier. This is not a great way. Now, if you look at it, the first thing you do is read the payload, you verify the request, and you perform business logic, like send out the email to the customer, oh, your invoice was successfully created or your payment was successfully received. We'll go ahead to deliver your package to you, depending on what your business is. But this is not great because you need to respond to the API provider ASAP. You need to send a 200. And so if we flip this a bit, what you have is this, which is great. What this is doing is responding in the moment it can verify the webhook event that's coming from Paystack, it responds immediately and then throws this event to a asynchronous queue, like a job queue to sort of do further processing. And this is great. These are final thoughts on how to verify webhook events. I hope I've done a good job. Thank you.
Uh, Thanks, Subomi. Quick one. I guess we can move over to questions. We have a bunch of questions already.
Oh my. Okay, so I can just like go through the questions, right?
Yeah, we're hoping to highlight like start a live answer for does Convoy delay response time. So we had like a conversation going on in the chat on like how is it like Convoy is sitting in between like um let me just look for that quickly.
Yeah.
So it's like well, does Convoy
Maybe
delay?
we can highlight it.
Yeah, you can start like a live answer.
Hmm.
Or let me just go ahead and do that.
Okay. Does Convoy delay response time? Um, I'm assuming the question is
So he's saying like in a situation where he's like promising customers zero time transactions. So does Convoy increase how long it takes for like transactions to like go through or like respond to customers on successful transactions?
no. Convoy is pretty fast, and it was very intentional to write such an infrastructure tool in Go. So I mean, Convoy is also open source. You can check it up, frame.dev at Go. It's really fast, and it was very intentional to choose Golang as like the technology of choice to ensure that you can sort of like scale so fast and deal concurrently with events. And Go is a very good language for concurrency. So yeah, it
Uh,
it does it.
so I think he was asking there was something sitting in the middle of you and Paystack.
No, nothing. So Paystack, Convoy, your backend.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned that Convoy is just like a I'm trying to remember the word, a proxy.
Yeah. I mean, other than your normal like how you deploy web servers, like you deploy like Nginx in front or a load balancer. Other than that, nothing else.
Awesome. Let me
Um,
spotlight the next question.
is it possible to write my event handler in Convoy? I mean, the logic that will process the event received from Paystack. Actually, very good question. It's on the roadmap. So we have this thing called transformation where you can write custom JavaScript inside Convoy to do something. And this is very useful for like scenarios where um, you have like something called synchronous webhooks where the provide again also for like USSD, right? Somebody types something, your provider sends you what the person has responded to on like your USSD prompt, and then you can sort of like decide what to send next. So not at the moment, but it's on the roadmap.
Awesome. Next question.
If you have up to 10,000 events, does Paystack send all 10K events or do you delay? Paystack sends all 10K events and Convoy sends all 10K events to you with minimal delay.
Okay. The next one we have is not.
Um,
I think maybe Ian, if you could just rephrase your question a bit, it's not so clear. All right. So we have another one. How many retries does Convoy run for field events? I think we saw that live.
yes. So it's not fixed, right? When you create a project, there are two types of project on Convoy, depending on your use case. Convoy is a proxy for API providers and for API consumers, right? So you can create an incoming project to receive, and you can create an outgoing project to publish out. When you create your project, on your project settings, you can specify I want my retries to be 10, 50, 100, whatever fits your use case. That's configurable on the project. So it's not a Convoy thing. It's given to you to decide how many retries you want.
Okay.
I mean, you can also stretch that to you can configure the retries, you can configure the rate limit. So you can say, I want Convoy. So imagine a scenario where you did not expect 10,000 events, but Paystack is sending you 10,000 events because all of a sudden Don Jazzy tweeted about your store, your Paystack storefront or something, and then you have just everybody buy something. And then you configure on Convoy that send me 500 events every minute. What that will happen is Convoy Paystack will blast us with the 10K, will absorb the 10K and start sending you 500 every minute to ensure that your system in the middle of the night is processing everything and doesn't go down. So you don't have degraded experience.
All right. Cool. Um. So next question is, how minimal is the latency Convoy adds to the whole process?
If you wouldn't notice. I mean, I can say that some of us are already receiving events from Convoy today and do not notice the difference, right? We have like crypto APIs using Convoy to publish, and they switch from their internal system to Convoy, and the consumers did not notice. SMS APIs publishing over like 2 million webbook events, and the customers did not notice. Fintech APIs publishing hundreds of thousands of events, and the customers did not notice. So it's really minimal.
Awesome. Um. So I think the next question is, it's around what key to look at when. Okay, I think this is Yang.
Yeah, this is a good question. This is a good question. Um, so there are two things, right? Depending on how you configure your project, Convoy takes in the events and we sign it as well. So when you put in your endpoint secret, when you put in your endpoint to Convoy and you put in a secret, we sign the payload and supply you X Convoy signature. But why it also makes sense, why we also say it's a proxy is when Paystack sends us X Paystack signature, we don't trash it. So we take the payload you given to us, we take X Paystack signature and we pipe everything down to you. So when it gets to your hand, you see X Paystack signature, you see X Convoy signature. The good thing about X Convoy signature is you can consolidate your webbook verification logic into X Convoy signature. Maybe you are depending on Paystack, Mono, Flutterwave, Stripe, like five different payment providers. You can consolidate your verification to just X Convoy signature on your backend and just continue to maintain that secret and change it and change it and change it so that it's secure rather than doing if else, if else, if else, if else. I don't know if that makes sense. But again, Convoy proxies the two secrets down to you. So, and one of the good things about proxying the two secrets down to you is you can start using Convoy today without, you can start using Convoy today to receive Paystack events without changing a line of code by allowing it proxy down to you. So all you see is the user agent in your HTTP headers will be Convoy, but the X Paystack signatures will come down with it and you can continue verification.
Awesome. So is Convoy hiring? I think we have Anthony that is very eager to know. You already have some.
Convoy, Convoy is open source. And we tend to sort of like work very closely with our community members. We have a Slack community where people can contribute. I think I will just drop the link to the GitHub repository here for people that are curious and want to sort of learn more. Yeah. Also, we have like a roadmap page. We have like a roadmap page showing like the new features that are coming soon. So it'll be good to join the community and let's work together. It will be awesome.
So I'm sharing a link also to the Convoy community, just in case anyone is interested in joining.
It'll be awesome.
I think that's all the question we have.
All right.
So we encourage you guys to go ahead and sign up for like Convoy. We dropped some links in the chat, and for anyone requesting like the recording will be sent at the end of this session. And yeah, Ian just asked another question. Like, yeah, Convoy is completely free, it's open source. If you're interested in contributing, I guess you can join the community and then do your best to contribute. And also encourage everyone here to like sign up for Paystack and begin to receive payments from anywhere in the world.
Also, to your question, sorry, to your question, Ian, it's completely free. You can deploy it in your environment. We also provide like a cloud platform, so you go to getconvoy.io, you can sign up. It's the same software. It's the same software on GitHub. It's the same software we're deploying on our environment for reliability, uptime, for people that don't want to worry about all of that. But yes, it's free.
So are you looking at possibly making like an enterprise solution available, or is it going to stay open source?
Yes. I mean, Convoy is a for-profit business. So yes, we are going to. I mean, the cloud is also priced. So if you don't want to deploy it by yourself, the cloud is priced. Yes. I mean, if you go to the getconvoy.io page today, you won't see a pricing page, but we are going to open up a pricing page very soon. And then what we are simply charging for is like we are running on like a multi-region K-test deployment. We are providing the uptime to ensure that every time Paystack sends you event, every time anybody sends event, we receive it from all our regions or any available region rather, and proxy it down to you. And also for API providers, the same thing. But yes, and then like for enterprise, like API consumers are like on different scales. Like people are publishing like 2 million, 10 million, hundreds of millions. So it's a different infrastructure to power that, and that's like an enterprise version.
All right. So how do you access like the cloud version? Is there a link to that, or is it just go and get Convoy?
Yes, get convoy.io. You see a call to action, get started for free. Click on get started for free and you sign up.
All right. Okay, that's cool. So I think yeah, we can definitely close this now. I think Andrew dropped off the call. Yeah, again, so if there's any feedback, feel free to share it in the Slack community. And again, we'll have recordings available in your emails once we're done here. And thank you
Right.
for joining again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Bukun.
See you in our next session.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.